Oh, what do we have here? Rub me. Ugh, gross.
Mortal, you have freed me from my prison. As a reward, I shall grant you 3 wishes.
Alright, now we're talking. Let's see. For my first wish, I want a sandwich.
Your wish is my command. Wait, what? A sandwich? Just one. You sure?
Just make with the magic, dog.
You know, you can wish for more.
You're right. For my next wish, I want $10 so I can buy another sandwich later. Sweet. What?
I don't think you fully grasped the golden opportunity here. Many people will be lucky to stumble across a magic lamp. You can change history. You could be a king. What now?
Can I get some tomatoes on this bad boy?
I'm getting too old for this.
Hello and welcome back to Gamebox, the show where we take a look at games of yesteryear. And today we'll be taking a look at a game from the PlayStation 3 era. A game that was Ubisoft's last-ditch effort to try and light a fire of renewed interest for one of their most popular game series. A game that was a continuation of a series that had already been completed. A little game called Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands. So since the Prince of Persia series had been rebooted, one would assume that Ubisoft's next project would be a continuation from the game that came out in 2008. Yeah? Well, hold your horses, buckaroo, because this ain't that. Prior to its release in October of 2009, rumors began circulating that a new Prince of Persia game was in the works. This new game was announced officially on November 30th, 2009. The trailer was later shown off on December 12th, 2009 during the Spike TV Video Game Awards. The Forgotten Sands was developed using the Anvil engine, an internally created engine that was used for Assassin's Creed under the name Scimitar, which had been used for Assassin's Creed and Prince of Persia 2008. It was then renamed Anvil, which was used in Assassin's Creed 2 and Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands, as well as Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and Revelations. It was again renamed and upgraded to Anvil Next, which was used in games like Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed 4: Black Flag. It will be upgraded once more with Anvil Next 2.0, which was used in games like For Honor, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, and Assassin's Creed Origins. The Anvil engine allowed for both larger detailed environments and large enemy numbers in an area at once. The Forgotten Sands was meant to return to the charm of the Sands of Time trilogy, or more specifically, the first game in that trilogy. This new game brought back Yuri Lowenthal,
My boy.
which was the only returning cast member, but there is a good reason why, as this new story was in fact a side story that would be taking place within the original trilogy. Forgotten Sands was released on Xbox 360, Wii, Nintendo DS, PlayStation Portable, and PlayStation 3 on May 18, 2010 for North America, and on May 20, 2010 in Europe. It was also released for Windows for both North America and Europe on June 12, 2010. The thing to note is on the Wii, DS, and PSP version of the game were in fact different versions in both story and gameplay. The PSP version being a side-scroller. The reception for the console games were okay, but not as bad as the handheld ports. But not great either. And with that, let's take a look at today's game.
Fall back! To the gates!
Taking place in the 7-year time gap between Sands of Time and Warrior Within, the prince is sent to a kingdom under the rule of his brother Malik, a brother that I personally do not recall ever being mentioned before. Anywho, when he arrives, he finds the city under attack. The prince jumps into action to help his brother out of this mess. But wait, there's more. Malik has a plan of his own to defend his keep, as the kingdom he is currently occupying was previously owned by King Solomon. And why is that a big deal? Well, time for a tiny history lesson. So, King Solomon was a figure featured in the Holy Bible as the guy who wanted to cut a baby in half to prove a point. Now, there's actually more to it, but I'm not going to go into it here. The important bit of this guy is that in some circles, he is seen as a magician and an exorcist. His name will be used in numerous amulets, seals, and sometimes even spells. It will later become common hearsay that King Solomon controlled demons and made them his slaves. This tale was elaborated on further in the text known as Testament of King Solomon. This particular piece of literature detailed King Solomon's collection of the demon bestiary. He was also mentioned in 1001 Nights, in a story involving King Solomon trapping a jinn in a bottle for displeasing him. This just so happens to be pulling double duty, as it serves as both inspiration for this particular game, and the overall collection of stories was inspiration for the series as a whole. Alright, lesson over. Back to the game. And what was this oh so brilliant plan of Malik's, I hear you ask? Well, he decides to release the long locked away army of King Solomon to fight his enemies. And for any veteran of the series, many red flags are popping up right now. And wouldn't you know it, the plan goes sideways as one may have guessed. As it turns out, the army had been locked away by Solomon due to them being sent to kill him, and in fact not being under his control. Upon the release, the army attacks everyone in the kingdom, turning them into sand statues. Now the prince and Malik must work with a water djinn named Radia in order to undo Malik's mistake. Man, it seems like the prince has a knack for cleaning up magical messes. This is where the game is very hit or miss with some fans of the series, myself included, so we'll start with the veggies, then get to that dessert. So, combat. It's alright. It flips the script from the Prince of Persia 2008, which itself had already flipped the script from the original Sands of Time trilogy, so that's a 360 and now we're back here. And what did all that nonsense mean? Well, since Prince of Persia 2008 focused on more one-on-one fights, Forgotten Sands went back to group fights, which wasn't a bad thing. In fact, I was a fan of the switchback. But in the past games where combat felt fun and exciting, here it falls flat. Some of the moves that were present in the previous titles were gone completely, while others were substituted for less flashy moves. There is even a lack of a block button, which in itself opened up the combat even more by introducing a counterattack. This was something even the PSP game had. There are powers the prince has access to in order to complete his journey, and they fall into two categories, that being combat and platforming. For combat, yes, this is a second helping of veggies. We're almost through this. There is Ice Blast, which lets the prince shoot ice shards out in front of him. Whirlwind, which lets the prince summon a powerful gust of wind to knock down foes or straight up kill weaker enemies. Trail of Flame, which is kind of self-explanatory, it's just a small flame that trails behind the prince and damages enemies. And finally, Stone Armor, which is armor that will protect the prince from harm. The only powers I tended to use in combat were Whirlwind and Stone Armor. The other powers were left untouched beyond demonstration purposes. Now for that damn dessert, and that would be the platforming. Here it shines like a diamond. It was fluid, though I feel at times not as fluid as its predecessors. But it was still fun to do. However, it's not all running and jumping, and just like combat, the prince has additional abilities to aid with that. There is the power of time, which brings back the rewind power from the Sands of Time trilogy, the power of flow, an ability that lets the prince freeze water, the power of flight, an ability that lets the prince dash across gaps and attack enemies, and finally, the power of memory. This ability lets the prince conjure up pieces of the environment. This one should sound a bit familiar, as it's the same power that was present in Prince of Persia 2008. These powers do a very good job in adding something new to the overall platforming experience, which in turn ends up being very, very fun, as it does add a bit of challenge. Later sections of the game do utilize each power as a unison. The level structure does go back to a more linear experience of the original trilogy. Again, this is something I didn't mind. Now, don't get me wrong, I like open world games, but I also feel that if there's nothing interesting to do in those worlds, it tends to make the overall experience pretty bland. So if a story can benefit with going with the more linear format, then I say that should be the route to go. But if you can populate that world with little things that'll make the player want to explore more, that's cool too. As far as bosses, they were alright, but they all act the same. The last boss does have 2 phases, so that was cool, but that one plays like the others. Hit, roll away, repeat. So there weren't really anything to write home about. Something new this game does bring into the fold was an upgrade system. When the prince defeats an enemy, he gains XP which can be used to upgrade the prince's abilities. Things like adding more energy slots or increasing overall health, to adding powers to the prince's arsenal, to even increasing the prince's damage output. This was something that wasn't done to this extent in the previous entries, as in those titles, most of the abilities were unlocked through story progression. And with this new addition, this also introduces a New Game Plus option for the player after completion of the main story. Something that, to my knowledge, wasn't present in any other title, so that was very interesting to see. The Forgotten Sands ditched the cel-shaded look from Prince of Persia 2008, an art style that I was actually fond of. It gave it a very storybook-like quality to the overall presentation. Here, the prince looked off to me. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but it stuck with me throughout the entire game. This game does benefit from using the Anvil engine, as the environments do look great. I personally didn't have any issues performance-wise in my overall experience with the game. The music does have that familiar sound one would expect from Prince of Persia game. I will say I'm a big fan of that sweet pause menu music. So, all in all, is this a game you need to go out and play? I'm gonna give a soft yes. It was cool to see a return to form that made the series popular, but the stripped down combat does leave a bad taste in some people's mouths. The combat aside, I did feel that the platforming was executed well, and this made the game very fun as a result. So is this the return to form that most fans wanted? Probably not. but it was still interesting to play. Sure, it had its faults, but it did have some charm deep within. I will say, it was fun to go back through this series again. Some of the games I did like more than others, but the overall experience was pretty enjoyable. Some might even say it was akin to, oh, I don't know.
Some people say it's better than busting a nut.
Yeah, that about sums it up. There were rumblings of a new game here and there, but so far nothing's come of it. There was that crossover event with For Honor that had the Prince as well as a theme level in the game, but that didn't really fill that hole that the series' departure left in our hearts. Unfortunately, I don't see Ubisoft returning to this series in the future, but I'll be glad if I'm wrong about that one. Now, if you excuse me, I have a genie to put back in a bottle.
Won't leave here alive after that.
Hey, welcome to the end of the video. I thank you for making it this far. So this does mark the end of the look at the Prince of Persia series, and of what I'm calling Season 1. But don't fret, I will be back.
And I'm bringing my new toys with me.
But seriously, I do have a buttload of games on my backlog to get to, so you can definitely look forward to that. Again, I really do appreciate all of you who stuck it out with me for this long. So, as a gift, I'll give you a sneak peek at next season. I'm pretty excited for what's to come. But until then, you know what to do. Spread the awesome, and I'll see you next time.